Good
Okay.
morning and welcome, everyone. This is the Saturday, December the 11th meeting of the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods. I'm Kathy Wells, the president. I came from the Downtown Neighborhood Association in Ward 1, and now we'd like everyone to introduce themselves. Ron, tell us yourself and your neighborhood.
Ron Muse, representing Forest Hills Neighborhood Association. We are now part of Ward 3 instead of Ward 2. So we will be working closely with Kathy Webb. Excuse
Yes.
me, I get you too confused all the time.
Yes,
Yeah,
she's
so-
the good office. Yes.
Right. So Kathy Webb, I've already communicated with her. We plan on getting together and having conversations and having meetings and that sort of.
Mr. Walker, tell us about yourself.
I am Robert Walker from the Capital Butte Station Neighborhood Association, which is Ward 3. But right now, I'm at the McDonald's University in Asher because there are people trying to clean up Goose Creek today. They do it the second Saturday of every month. They picked that. And so I came down to try to help, but here I am in a Zoom meeting instead. They're over at Benny Craig Park. They got a boom strung across Goose Creek to catch the trash. And so then they got to try to get it out, at least once a month. It rained a lot last night, so they caught a lot of trash.
Oh, wow, that's a big job. Thank you for that. Denise, introduce yourself.
Denise Leeson. I'm the president of the Central High Neighborhood Association, and I'm very happy to be here with you all this morning.
Thank you. John Hedrick, introduce yourself, please.
John Hedrick, Vice President, Downtown Neighborhood Association, and good to be here.
Jim Lynch, introduce yourself.
My name is Jim Lynch. I live in Ward 3. I'm affiliated with Arkansas Community Organizations.
Did we have a Jacqueline Hunt still? The name came up, but then it left. Well, we'll hope that Jacqueline can get back with us there. I think she's with the Baseline folks, but we'll just ask her to introduce herself in the event that she joins us again. Neil Seeley, introduce yourself, please.
Okay, Neil Seeley. I live in Capitol View's Fifth Station area, and I work for Arkansas Community Organizations and Arkansas Community Institute.
Thank you so much for coming to speak to us today about the status of evictions in the county and the relief offered to renters, which is switched from the county, which was a very problematic operation, to the state agency. So tell us the status of things today, please.
Okay, let's look at the CDC moratorium on evictions went off in the early fall. And after that time, evictions really ticked up. So that moratorium, which was on and off again and on again several times, really did help. I was always skeptical of it. It did have a lot of holes in the protection, but it did seem to slow down the evictions. So far as of December 9th in Pulaski County, there have been more than 2,200 evictions filed. We started a program called Eviction Intervention at the end of March 21st. From that point, there have been 1,739 eviction filings. So what our program did was we developed a letter that gave back then information about the CDC declaration. One important thing for tenants was understanding what to do when you're served eviction papers. In Pulaski County, well, in Arkansas, there are three methods of eviction. One is the criminal eviction process, a sort of holdover from the Jim Crow era. There is also a small claims eviction used in some counties. In Pulaski County and most other counties, the civil eviction process is used. It's called unlawful detainer. And so that's what those are and they're filed in circuit court. So we have been either hand delivering or we're currently mailing. We look at the filings every day on Court Connect, and we send a letter that basically gives tenants some very important information. The first of which is if you're served the court papers, you get two things. You get the complaint and then you get a summons. And the summons is written in legalese and it begins, you must file a response within 30 to 60 days. And so tenants think that is the response time. If you go to the second paragraph, you have only 5 days to file an objection to a writ of possession and to deny the allegations. And so that's the first thing we put in the letter. And we have not tracked, are we getting more tenants more often contesting their eviction or not? We want to go back and track that at the end of the year. And then we give people information about rental assistance, of which now this DHS is now taking care of Pulaski County, and we give them the link, and then we urge them to join our Facebook group, Arkansas Renters United. So we get calls every day. Most people that we deliver the information to don't call, but we have intervened in a lot of evictions, and then we point people towards the Central Arkansas Legal Services. So on the condition of rental assistance, Pulaski County got money. As you all know, people started applying in the late spring and waited for months and months to hear the status of their application. The program was very rigid. They would not, the HUD guidance on rental assistance allows money to go directly to a tenant, but in the beginning, it had to be an agreement between the tenant and the landlord. So the county would not move off of that, but when the guidance was liberalized. And so we had a coalition with Lynn Foster and some other organizations, someone who worked with Our House, and we met with the Department of Human Services, and we're able to make some progress. So they are moving applications faster. It's still slow. Money can go directly to the tenant if the landlord refuses to cooperate. But there's still other things that we wanted them to do, like hire navigators. The process is still online and it's hard to get help. There's a lot of documents that you need to upload. The federal guidance provides alternatives to that, which DHS says they use. But we've not seen much evidence of that. But it is moving much better. There is also another organization, a private nonprofit called the People's Trust in Southwest Little Rock. If another alternative for tenants is what's called an emergency solutions grant, and that can be used to help a tenant move into a new place, and usually will provide a couple of months rent. The DHS program is more comprehensive, can include some utility assistance, and can pay off the debt and several months ahead. So that's kind of where we are. We, as I said, get calls every day. We have folks that we work with in Fayetteville, and they are also mailing to, they're also tracking the filings and mailing to tenants. So that's my report. I think it's, there's been a huge uptick since October in evictions, and I imagine that will continue.
Tell us about numbers. You talked about its flow of process, but how many calls and how many folks are still in distress, you might say?
I would say, I don't, we get about 3 to 5 calls a day, every Monday through Friday. And so that is, sometimes we will mail 15 to 20. One evening we mailed 50 letters to tenants. So it's not a high percentage. Some tenants call, they got the letter and they went down and filed the answer and then called us to find out about assistance and to talk about their issues.
And do we have the lawyers in force to assist them when they're referred to the legal folks?
I think the Center for Arkansas Legal Services is swamped. And so they have, are no longer guaranteeing that they can represent everyone.
In other words, overwhelmed and
Yeah.
short of people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I've heard that there are some judges who are exploring the idea of mediation, but I don't think that's come to fruition, to sort of just hold and try to get the landlord and the tenant to reach an agreement. And that would be a very good step, I think.
That would be great if we could get that. And please let us know the instant that becomes real so we could spread the word and
Yeah.
celebrate the judge, who will be an elected official and will merit praise from this organization.
Absolutely. And people should understand that once you get an eviction, it's on your record, the ability to find decent, affordable housing narrows. So we find many people have no choice but to end up in a place like Colonial Park or the old Alexander Apartments, and will be charged what I think is a ridiculous amount of money for the kind of living conditions that they're in. So we want to make sure
Mary, we seem to have lost Neil.
I think the issue would be on his end. He is still connected.
Okay.
once you're addicted.
Neil, I'm sorry, we just lost you for a moment there.
Oh, you did? Okay.
So we last heard you say that you might be, because of an eviction on your record, forced into poor quality housing at very high dollar rent. And I believe you named, I want to call it Coldstream Manor, but I'll bet I got it wrong. And we didn't hear that in anything else you said.
Oh, okay. So after that, so yeah, so you will often end up in bad housing with bad conditions, Colonial Park, or Alexander, the old Alexander Apartments. It's or Big Country Chateau, and for what you get, you're paying a ridiculous amount of money. And then there legal that landlord property managers will go after you sometimes for the back rent if you didn't get it all paid, and legal fees. So you're facing debt collection. So
What remedies do you recommend, and what do you want the coalition to do in support of helping these folks?
I think we should keep, I guess, monitor DHS, just try to find out what's going on. People do need help applying. And I think that's one thing that we should be pushing for. Because there are a lot of document requirements. You have to upload them to the application on the computer, and not everybody, a lot of tenants don't have a PC at home, and are not very computer savvy. So that would be a really big help if we could get the city, the county, whomever to put some money into folks helping people apply for rental assistance.
Well, we just had library millage, and improving their digital services was a big feature of this campaign. And there's a lot of library computers anyway.
Yeah.
Is there a potential partnership with the asking Nate Coulter to in some way open up a special computer section for these rent relief applications that would just be running with their normal hours of operation? And maybe, I know that staff is not great at the library, but could volunteers be brought in to assist? How hard is it to become a volunteer to assist Kathy in filing her application?
Well, you'd have to go through the application yourself, but yeah, I think that's a great idea. We do talk a lot to some folks who work in the library, and since we always tell tenants, don't try to apply on your phone, because that's going to be hard to upload documents. Go to the library, ask for help, get on a computer, use a scanner. So yeah, we should meet with Nate and see if they can expand the help that they're giving folks.
Well, great. If you're doing it already, then maybe just put it in formal operation and see if he can't kind of dedicate some.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of demand, but there's also a setting priority between somebody who's trying to prevent evictions and somebody who just wants to undertake other activities of lesser emergency status.
Yeah.
I would say. And it's possible, I just came to me, and I would recommend that we ask, and we can certainly write a letter of support from the coalition if that would be suitable, that they might acquire a lot of laptops real fast and set them up in one of those rooms they haven't done much with down at Rock, and just turn it into a call center equivalent, where there's just a lot of them wired up in online.
Yeah.
And maybe in a separate room wouldn't be a bad thing either.
Ron Muse has a question or a statement here.
Thank you. Yes, Ron.
I'm looking at what you sent out, the bids available for littlerock.gov, online bids. E under offer neighborhood safety projects, targeted funding areas also include E, housing and or food insecurity. I'm wondering if there's an entity that might want to bid on that for these purposes.
Okay, background us on what bid list you're looking at, Ron.
Well, I just saw this on there and didn't know whether it would be viable to find an entity or to identify an entity for housing and food insecurity.
Who's taking the bids?
I don't know. I'm saying, is there possibly an entity that would be making that bid or could possibly?
No, I'm not making the bid. Who is taking the bids? Who is asking for the bids?
Okay, whichever way it's worded, there might be an entity that could become involved.
Yeah.
We don't know what agency you're talking about. I'm sorry.
anyone that might exist. I'm just suggesting that that might be a possibility.
Ron, she's asking who issued the bid? Who is requesting the proposals?
Oh, says www.littlerock.gov/online bids.
City Hall.
Oh, the city hall bid list. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Interesting. Okay, that's,
Well, yeah, yes, yes, let's pursue that, Neil.
Yeah, you sent that out, Kathy. That's, I mean, I just was referencing one of the many things that you send around to us.
yeah. It
Since
would
I
be
did-
great if you
I might
reset.
not know them all
Yeah.
at the instant we refer to them. Thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah, Kathy, would you resend that out?
Is that a simple, kind of a link to the online bids page?
It seems to be.
Just a very,
It gives the www.littlerock.gov/online bids.
Okay. Okay, well, that's
I came across
easy
that,
enough.
just thought, oh, well, people should be tracking that. So that's not hard. And in fact, if you don't want to wait on me to fumble back to it, you just go to littlerock.gov and in that search window up at the top of the screen, put in online bids and that page should come up.
It looks like this.
Okay.
Yes, yes, that's exactly what comes up when you do that. littlerock.gov and then search on online bids. Because good catch, Ron, that had escaped my detailed knowledge and attention. But that's something to pursue.
Yeah, Kathy, I'd like to ask Neil a question if I may. Neil, I mean, this gets, this kind of backs up to more of the atmosphere and the background of the federal assistance. I'm still puzzled at why landlords were so, apparently many of them, and in fact, enough of them to, make a difference, were reluctant to help get back rent and current rents up to date. I mean, it's federal money. The Congress has made it national policy that we're going to help people with rent, but yet we've got landlords saying, I don't want to participate. I don't understand that. What's going on?
I think a number of things. I think in some cases, they just want the tenant out and just want a clean house. So that's what we're kind of seeing happening with some complexes. And I think the other thing is I have heard that it would be treated as income. I'm not sure I understood that, but that's what one property management group was saying. So I think there's a whole number of reasons, but I think to me the biggest is to get the tenant out and probably eventually raise rents and get new tenants.
I have an answer for you, Jim. And a public official who shall remain nameless, early on in my exchanges with folks when we were supporting the county activities, told me with some bemusement that what he'd learned was that the payment to the landlord is treated as income, of course, which means that it must be immediately reported to the federal government. I think it's a 1099 form that we're all familiar with. But the fact that if landlord Kathy collects from this county program as it was then, $500, just throw that out of a hat. Not only do I get the money, but it is immediately reported to the federal government. And a lot of landlords, it would appear, were passing by this money because they did not want the attention of the federal government on the fact that they were collecting this kind of rent income. In other words, we believe that they were tax dodgers and they didn't want to be uncovered and revealed and subjected to IRS action against tax dodging for not reporting income from their rents.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, they're landlords. They've been renting these units for years. It's already income. I guess your point is they weren't reporting it. And now there's this.
Picture we're getting, yes.
So it's not like they've all of a sudden have a new tax obligation. It's just that the direct assistance now makes it more accessible for the IRS to know exactly what they're collecting, and they didn't want that to happen.
Yeah, they can't cook the books as easy.
They may have had some income tax report from landlord Kathy,
But not
but
100%.
it's not complete, and the numbers weren't complete. And it's possible that an entire apartment complex might not have gotten onto my annual income tax return. And then if I pop up with a $500 payment for a brand new entity, they'll have exactly the same reaction you did. Well, gee, these apartments have been out there for years and there's 100 units. And what about the rest of the stream of revenue? So it's a very sad reflection on the income tax reporting system of America.
And we also have to understand that many of these complexes, there's a lot of turnover in tenants, even in normal times. B, the owner is out of state and the owner parks his or her money there for a few years and then moves on. So if people are familiar with Crestwood in Hillcrest, it used to be called, it's now called Arbor Point. It was sold about 2 years ago to Nighthawk LLC, which is based out of Arizona. And I actually got a call from the owner when we had people out there. And it was a very interesting one and fun call, actually. And so we're hearing now that they're moving to sell that again. So that in the last, say, 3 or 4 years, it's changed owners. It will have changed owners, 3 different owners. Basically.
You made it too hot for them to stay and treat people decently, huh?
Yeah.
Or indecently, I should say. If you're out there, they're not treating them decent, right?
Right.
Neil, did you have any background information on Nighthawk? I mean, I know the apartment complex you're talking about. It's right up there in the Hillcrest district. It's been there forever. I've always considered it a fairly decent place to live, if I could use that adjective. But what's going on with Crestwood Apartments being flipped every 24 months?
Well, it was, I think, in the hands for a long time of a company out of Alabama, I think. But it had problems. There were sewer backups. And
Well, I have read about that.
yeah, other issues. So we're talking 4 or 5 years ago. And then Nighthawks swooped in about 2 years ago. And I've got some video of this guy boasting about his climb to success and what a great guy he is. And he even reviewed his own apartment complex, saying great things are happening. It's got a 2.9 rating in one of the online apartment ratings.
This is 661-0406, please.
And so there were a number of problems over the last year. The most recent was the heat went off for everybody. And it took them a long, long time to fix it. Maintenance is not very responsive. I think they have 80 or so empty units now. So people have been moving out. So he's ready to get rid of it and sell it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like some capital expenses are due and Nighthawk doesn't want to pay them.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I'm not hearing you, Kathy.
What happened to Kathy?
Not working?
Now it does show you muted, Kathy.
Now again, now you are.
It didn't a minute ago.
Your mic isn't working. Now you,
Hear you.
Okay.
no,
Now,
not
now
working.
you're unmuted, but we can't hear you, Kathy. Kathy, I suggest you log off and log back in. It should refresh your microphone. I'll let Kathy back in just as soon as she gets here.
Ron, I want to welcome you to my ward. There's Kathy again.
Glad you're with us, Mary.
Couldn't do it without you.
Okay, does that work?
Yes, very good.
Yes.
I will leave off my video. That may solve the problem there. Okay. So I was asking about whether code enforcement of the city was any help in this apartment complex you had to deal with.
I'm not sure if they've called code out there or not. We have found them to be very uneven. We have some great code enforcement officers who really do care about tenants and what they're living in, but it's, you know, even, well, pandemic, certainly there was less, I think, going out and inspecting apartments, but
Yes,
even before that time, it was very, very uneven. That's the best I can say.
Do we have any other questions for Neil or any other actions that we might take in support of resolving this problem, folks? Neil or any other participants?
Question. Neil, are there any processes or policies that other cities or counties have put in place that have shown to be effective in those areas that have not yet been adopted here that could?
Yeah, nationally, yes. There are other cities. I think Philadelphia. I think what I would do is go to the Eviction Lab website, and you can see a lot of mediation, and so it helping people avoid that eviction. And so I'm not sure if Fayetteville did a great job of getting rental assistance out to people, but to my knowledge, we're not trying to get to that point where we can do mediation and help satisfy the landlord and keep the tenant whole. I think we need to figure out how to do that. Hopefully, those judges here at Pulaski will come up with something. It's not a majority of the judges, but some of them I have heard are talking about that.
Please recite that website address, Neil.
You just Google Eviction Lab. It's out of Princeton. It's Matthew Desmond's, the guy who wrote Eviction. It's out of Princeton, and they track evictions nationally, but don't track them in Arkansas because our data is so scanty on evictions. We can easily do the circuit court evictions, but at the district court level, reporting is very, very uneven and very hard to track. And that would be the criminal eviction and the small claims evictions. And then you should also look at the National Low Income Housing Coalition and their website.
National Low Income Housing
Coalition.
Coalition. So perhaps one of the services we could offer is to press for better data collection at the district court level. Because
I
only
think
when you document your problem do you begin to succeed in lobbying for your solution in so many cases.
Yeah, I think that's definitely right. And even at the circuit court level, it needs to be better. And also, I think reporting by race, gender, income level of defendants would be very, very helpful.
Say that again. I'm making notes here.
Okay. We really think we're trying to track, and I don't know if we can succeed, but how race and gender, how evictions impact race and gender. And there's really no requirement that someone's race or gender and income be part of the reporting on Court Connect or even in just court records. And we think that's important because, you know, we know by instinct that evictions have a greater impact on women and on people of color in the state, just from the scanning reporting that we do get.
Denise, you had a question?
Yeah, if you all would, I just posted in the chat, the website, those two websites,
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
links to them.
Mary, do we record the chat and post it anywhere?
We do record it, and I can post this information when I post the video.
Oh, great. Let's do that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we will have that out there. And we've just had budgeting. So all this material is fresh in everyone's mind, including that of the electeds who have been approving budgets and therefore might be tuned to an appeal that we need more and better reporting. We'll just have to think about the best policy statement we can make that would be successful with these folks. Please do email us. I'll start an email around where we're trying to frame that argument and discover what entities we're approaching about the reporting. I have a feeling it's the state administration of the courts, which I think is the central command over all of this. Is it not, Neil?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we're headed in the right direction. We just need to find out what's going on with them. Any other? Yes, Neil. Denise.
Is there any effort or any thought to put time and money into looking into any of these land property owners who are refusing to participate as to if they are in fact trying to avoid paying taxes?
Well, I'm working on a piece of information here, at least at the county level. It's kind of a back way into it, but they sent checks out to landlords A through Z, and then landlords 1 through 100 rejected this. They have records of that over in the finance office. As you know, aside from all of the policy discussion, there's a man tracking the money, check by check, individual by individual. I've stayed away from trying to pursue this earlier because they needed to get the tax collections for the county in and sorted. But I'm now going to go back to the county officials and find out and maybe do a freedom of information request that just says, hi there, I need the names of all the people that you wrote rent checks to. And sort out by that companion, the ones that rejected the checks, because they've got a record of that. If landlord Kathy took the money, they know it. And they've got a record of the check I took. If landlord Kathy rejected that, they've got a record of that too. So that's something we can work along on. And once we have those names, they are public record and we can make them public.
The biggest property management company in the state, Lindsay Management, has been the worst at taking rental assistance. In fact, they have most of the complexes flat out refused. And they manage Eagle Hill, Eagle's Nest out off of Baseline.
Eagle's Nest, Lindsay Management.
Yep.
Spell Lindsay, please. Is that S-E-Y, S-A-Y?
It's Jim Lindsay, the former Razorback football player of decades ago.
Yeah.
And one of his big allies in Little Rock is former director Fortson. If you check Fortson's campaign reports, Jim Lindsay gave him a ton of money in his previous elections to the city board. So Gene Fortson, I don't know how far you want to carry this, but Gene Fortson's got an inside to that Lindsay organization. I know that.
Well, okay. That's
He'll probably, if you call him about it, he'll probably claim he doesn't know anybody now since he's retired. But 10 years ago, he was depositing campaign checks as fast as he could open the envelope.
Yeah, they do. I'm sorry, I'm not that well versed on Razorbacks. Is that Mr. Lindsay with an S-E-Y?
Lindsey, Jim Lindsay.
Yeah.
That's what I need. Thank you.
I don't know. He may be has died. He's from Forest City. He was a big all-star for years up there.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, that's useful to know.
Yeah. They're based out of Fayetteville, and so the Eagle's Nest, that's Otter Creek areas where they are. They're huge complexes. And then just down I-30, there's a bunch in Benton and Bryant that we've door knocked. And so, yeah, they're having a increasingly bigger presence in Central Arkansas.
And I think maybe one of the questions we would usefully ask is go to the code inspector folks and ask them about their inspections of Lindsay Management properties. And of course, we can get that list of who's that from our good friend in the business license office. Because I bet you the one thing the Lindsay people do is they pay that business license. So we can obtain all of the addresses of all of their properties. Have you done that yet, Neil?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so that's what we're gonna do is get the list of all properties from the business license people and ask code inspections to occur. Because they still take complaint calls right alongside of their rotation that they have in place to go through the list from one to the end and back through it again. Look for that to come in the next few days. Anything else that we can think of that we might pursue? Does anybody want to get in on that one? Okay. Then that's where we will leave that discussion and action for the future, and emails will circulate. There are a couple of other points that I did want to report to everyone before we got away from each other today. In in addition to the good news that the Terry Mansion is now to receive $500,000 in city restoration money, to be paired with another $500,000 matched from some private participant not otherwise named at this point. Information that came out at the Tuesday budget meeting. Repeat that it repays everyone to look at the Tuesday budget meeting discussion, which is about 65 minutes into the recording. Mary's going to get that particular to us so we know how far to advance the video and pick up at the critical point. But there's a big fight going on between the mayor and the directors about his proposal, which was in the paper that morning, to hire a new employee for his office who would handle constituent phone calls. And Doris Wright was very adamant that she handles her constituent phone calls. And she did not want anybody else to take them away from her. And several other directors chimed in on this. And he kept trying to, in vain, placate them by saying, well, these are the people that just call into City Hall for help. And she says, I want to be notified. And it's not apparently occurred to anyone they could, since they're tracking this anyway, put it on a list and circulate it to everybody so you know whose ward this person was in who called City Hall today. Robert Walker, yes, sir.
I want to point out that the city owns another mansion that is the visitor center that's, up there over by the post office. So we got that mansion, the Terry Mansion, and I was welcoming Ron. There's this wonderful place to walk now that we share just to the east of just to the west of the med center. It's got a little asphalt trails and funny little level spots and everything. There's a building there on Markham that's not used by the Parks Department because they used to park golf carts around it that they probably don't know what to do, but it'd be ideal for people who want to play bridge or gather for chess or something. And we should advocate that these buildings be used, rather than.
We have bad sound. Could you send us an email with that, friend? Rob, send us an email. Your sound is interfered with. Thank you. Okay. Always good to have another resource there. Anyway, it got to be a real ping pong. I don't want you taking my constituents. No, we're not taking anyone's. We're just handling the folks that call into City Hall. And it wouldn't surprise me if they make a motion to delete that position from the budget before the end of the year. They're supposed to vote on the budget at the December 21st meeting. So there's that. That's going to poison the relations for some time to come, if I can tell it. Denise Leeson, tell us a bit about 1417 Park. We had a lot of activity to oppose a bad development, and the last we heard, they weren't taking it up this week. They had tried to sneak away from everybody, and it's now on the Planning Commission agenda for February 10th. So why don't you capsulize that for us?
Yes, there was a planned office, what is it, POC, planned office district, POD maybe, planned office district, approved by Planning Commission in 2006. That is constituted of 4 houses on Park Street across from the Central High, It's owned by, legally it's changed ownership. A former teacher named Grace Blagden and her family own the houses. So very little was done with these properties. What was proposed, what was intended, what was included in the 2006 proposal as intentions were not fulfilled. And as a matter of fact, 2 of the properties are gutted. They remain gutted. Currently, they participated in our October Zoom meeting, our neighborhood association meeting, requesting support from the neighborhood for, from the association for their current proposal, which is to rezone one of the structures, the one that's in the best condition, as a small event facility for no more than maximum 20 people, and have a like a 1-bedroom Airbnb type short-term rental toward the back of the house. That was on October 12th. October, the earliest date that I could find in the current proposal to rezone to a, was it,
PCD.
anyway, PCD, okay,
Yeah.
was October 18th, and they want to open it up to a maximum of 60 people and rent the whole facility out as Airbnb. And they mentioned to one of the neighbors that they want to target college students for parties. So you can imagine the response of the neighborhood, not to mention the people who own adjacent properties. And so it took us a while to develop some momentum on this and to respond to it, but various individual neighbors, as well as the principal from Central High, Kathy representing the coalition, I believe QQA has responded, Patricia Blick from coalition, from Quapaw Quarter Association has responded. And so like at the 11th hour, they decided, oh, well, maybe we're not ready to present this for approval at the planning commission meeting like 2 days ago. And so they postponed it. So who knows what they're going to actually propose in February, but yeah, we'll see.
She has forgotten to point out that we brought Principal Nancy Russo from Central High School across the street from this property into the objections group, because she'd learned nothing about it until we told her.
Right.
And
Sorry.
once we told her, she was appalled and angry and instantly registered her opposition. And by the way, we learned that there was a sad disconnection in anyone getting the word to her. As you know, what happens in these planning commission structures is they notify the neighborhood association and all owners in 200 feet. Turns out they had old outdated information to notify Central High. We've now got that fixed. It got delivered anyway. But of course, the abstract company will pull up the deed owner to the school, which will go to some official in the central headquarters who's not going to turn around and pass this out to Central High. So where schools are involved, it's going to be up to us neighborhood leaders to pick up the phone and email a copy of the notice, you've got this going on across the street from your letter, to take part in city hall discussions to keep the bad and support the good that would be right across the street from the school. So that was an outcome that we can be very pleased we were part of gaining connections.
We really appreciate the support of the coalition and all the other entities that joined in the opposition to this proposal. And like the coalition, we weren't aware that the school wasn't informed, so, which begs the question, were the other property owners within 200 feet informed? We know that one for sure was, but we don't know about the others.
In the public record, there is the standard postal service receipt required. Because this is a legal process, they get the address of the property owner from the abstract company, the deeds. They send that deed owner an official letter, which is only released upon signed receipt. And those come back to the planning commission as part of the application. So if you wanted to verify that, you can look at that in the record, because they have to have that. You might find it interesting when you do that to discover the mail went to some deed owner of record that's not the person you thought. Just as we realized there was this disconnect with the schools, which isn't surprising with such a large institution. But individual property owners named and receipted may well turn up useful, important links that you did not know. So that's always good to check.
Kathy, may I say,
Please, Jim, yes.
add 2 cents? Denise, well, thanks for your vigilance and that of Cheney for, getting eyeballing all of this and so forth. I'm not surprised that it got put off. I had heard about it. Joyce Matthews, as you know, lives next door. She's a Cheney member. I had talked to her about all this. A couple of other things. I mean, if it's going to come up again in February, who knows what may happen. I understand. I think this Mrs. Blagden is quite elderly. And I think the person that's really pulling the trigger on it is her daughter.
Yes.
And I think they're all in California. And so, that kind of gives me the idea at least that, all this, they've got several rental properties in Little Rock. It's, Miss Blagden is in no shape to manage them. The adult children are now trying to do something. Who knows what their intentions are, but they obviously, you can't manage real property from, 2,000 miles away. And so it seems to me they're trying to do a couple of proposals that they think might make the money, but they won't have to spend much money on. But nonetheless, having said that, Joyce was saying about all this, she was puzzled about Central High, and now we know that Nancy Rousseau was not in the loop, and now she is. That's good. The other person that ought to be in the loop for February or even in the interim is the director of the State Department of National Heritage. What's her name? It's forgot. Somebody help me out.
You're talking about Stacey Hurst?
Stacey Hurst is a former city director. She understands all this planning stuff. She was on the city board for a couple of terms. And her job is to protect all the historic properties and so forth. I mean, for Pete's sakes, we've got a national park district there. And everybody's so pleased that we've got this done 25 years ago and so forth. And now we're going to let college kids have all-night parties in the middle of it. No way. So Stacey Hurst ought to be clued in and lobbied to actively write a letter, get on the phone, do anything, tell the mayor to stop this and so forth. I was also disappointed to learn that even though it's a national park, right? Or a national monument of some kind.
Historic site is the phrase.
Historic site, but that the superintendent, the federal employee, was kind of blasé about doing anything about it, according to Joyce. And, had to report to higher headquarters and all this. Well, that's just BS. I mean, I would think that the National Park Service or whoever it is would absolutely say, no way are we going to let, part-time rental event center right across the street from Central High School even get a foothold. I don't know, somebody needs to go over there, and I would say take 3 or 4 people with you and go over there and make an appointment with the superintendent and let them know how serious you think this is and get some support. I don't know who the other owners are of those residences. I realize some of them are vacant houses on Park Street that front Central High, but I know there's some families in there and none of them can be supportive.
Actually, the Blagdens own 4 of them.
Oh, really? Well, that takes them off the list.
That's the problem.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
well,
Ken, following up on your remark is one other one. Denise, a couple of years back, I happened to be in a Cheney meeting when Congressman French Hill arrived to bring the glad news that thanks to his actions on behalf of his congressional constituents, they were getting, I think, this extended boundary for the historic site, which comes down Park Street over these houses. So that suggests to me that we go back and resurrect that action by Hill. I'm sure that Cheney wrote him a thank you letter for getting us from A to B. And you might ask him now to defend that with a letter that says we need to be very careful about what we permit
absolutely,
in
absolutely.
the extended boundary. And what you do is you write him a script and ask him to put his name on it. If I submit for your consideration, Denise. But he was bragging that day about doing a good thing, so we need to let him defend it now, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wasn't Tom Cotton involved in that as well?
I do not remember that. I just know French Hill came to the meeting. So we were sitting in the same room. And that was memorable.
I'll bet it was.
Doesn't happen often at neighborhood meetings.
No.
Does anyone have any other issues that we need to bring before us before we adjourn? We're at the time we need to say goodbye. Okay, then I will
Well,
say,
you know, I don't know.
Jim?
Well, let me say one more thing. It's been in the paper, of course, it's the new census data. All the city wards have to be redrawn. Looks like they're going to be redrawn with minimal change, but nonetheless, most of the people at the meeting this morning and all that are from Ward 1. And of course, Ward 1 is now so huge because the eastern part of Little Rock continues to lose population, and every ward has to be of equal population. So the geography of Ward 1 now extends all the way from the airport, all the way to University Avenue, And Ward 1 has a new city director. And I think his intentions are good. I think he's going to be a big improvement over what we've had. Quote me on that, because what we've had has been just pretty beyond disappointing. But someone ought to call all of this to Virgil Miller's attention and say, Virgil, you've got a National Historic Park in Ward 1, and we expect it to be protected, and we expect you to be at the forefront.
We did that, didn't we, Denise? Yeah, we got Virgil Miller in on this. We forgot to name him. I'm
Good,
sorry.
well, good. Well,
Yes, I don't know that he expressed his thoughts or opinions on the matter, but he was planning on going to the planning commission meeting. He and I were in communication on this.
good. That's good to hear.
So yeah, I think he'll take guidance from us. We need to make sure that he gets copies of all our letters, which we may not have might attended to that detail, but we can play catch up.
Yeah, I think his mailing address is 1512 South Gaines. He's built a new house right there, and so he lives right there in your neighborhoods.
And keep in mind that his official city email is vmiller@littlerock.gov. And so by all means, whatever other communications we send, we should include that one. I'm open to suggestion about what topics we take up in the new year. In the meantime, everyone have a splendid holiday and stay well in the rising statistics for illness. And I'm going to say thank you so much for your vigorous exchanges today. I think we had a really great civic meeting, and I'm going to declare that we are adjourned. We can stop the recording. Thank you, Mary.